Rescue the Fosters is about changing the foster system. We want to ensure every child has a safe environment to grow and become healthy, successful adults.
Additionally, when I was in the foster care system, I had to defend for myself. Rescue the Foster is here to empower the youth aging out of the system and offer resources to ensure they are not dependent on the government.
What we observed was that children become institutionalized and end up in prison and providing the government with more funds.
Rescue the Foster will provide coaching, resume writing, interview skills, professional attire for interviews, budgeting, applying for college, and obtaining housing.
We want these youth to live the most free, successful life possible.
It is their right and our responsibility to ensure that our future kids and grandchildren can live happy lives.
Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord.
Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future.
My name is Lorina. I'm from Poway, California. It's a nice city right near San Diego, California. My dad is one of 11 children and my mom is one of 8 children. And I have a huge family with lots of aunts, uncles, and cousins. And I grew up with 3 crazy older brothers. There's never a dull moment with growing up with my brothers. There's never any history of drug, alcohol, or abuse in any way.
The Constitution of the United States, ratified on June 21, 1789, is the supreme law of the United States. The first 10 amendments, also known as the Bill of Rights, were written and proposed to the states on September 25, 1789, by the First Congress of the United States, and ratified by the necessary number of states on December 15, 1791. Unlike any document before it, the Bill of Rights laid out the rules, not for the people, but rather what the government can and cannot do. The 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th Amendments are specifically designed to protect the citizens from a dictatorial government. Their purpose is meant to ensure that people are treated fairly if suspected or arrested for crimes. The 4th Amendment specifically protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures without a warrant. On New Year's Eve 2014, Lorina, a young mother living in Austin, Texas, gave birth to her second child, JJ. Not long after his birth, Lorina became concerned about an ongoing medical issue. Concerned, Lorina sought out medical attention for JJ, but little did she know that the Constitution would not apply to her.
Lorena, you here?
Yes.
Along with the kids?
I don't know for sure. So Jennifer, did you talk to DHS from here that came and saw the kids where they were? You didn't come and see them, did you?
I'm not gonna have this.
Are you Bridget?
Right now.
Are you Bridget?
Yes, ma'am.
You guys are corrupt from the beginning. You understand that? It's all about the money, right? $6,000 per kid?
Good evening and welcome to Rescue the Fosters. I am Gino, your host, and as always, Sylvia Beachy and KK Emmett, the co-founders and co-host of Rescue the Fosters. Ladies, how are you this evening?
We're just feisty today, Gino.
I noticed. I have my tail between my legs right now. I'm a little scared, folks. Just kidding. We're just having fun. Wow, that is very sobering watching that trailer. Every time I see actual footage of these kidnappings, and that is what they are, it absolutely rips my heart out of my chest. And you can watch the same one 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. It's just heart-wrenching to watch that stuff. So we have a good friend coming back with us tonight who we actually adore her. She's amazing. What she's done over the last 10 years is incredible. She'll go back over her story briefly. We're going to talk about several different subjects tonight. But Sylvia, if you could please introduce our guest.
I would be happy to. So Lorena has become a good friend of mine. I started working with her probably about 2 years ago, when she came on a show, and we just became good friends. And I'm so excited to help her release this documentary because she says something important in the beginning, and it's the Bill of Rights, right? Like, I've noticed that families don't even know their rights. And when they have CPS knocking at their door, they don't know what to do. And Lorena is taking her experience and helping other families. So I'm excited to have you back on, Lorena.
Hi,
Thank
Lorena.
you so much. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for coming back on, Lorena. We missed you.
Yes.
Missed you all too. Sorry, it's pouring rain out here. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah, folks, we are fighting both here where I'm at and where Lorena is. There are some severe storms going on. So hopefully we don't lose you guys. If we do, we're going to try to reconnect. We'll just see if the power stays on. My lights stopped blinking, so that's actually a really good sign. And Lorena, your internet's holding up. So I think we're in good shape.
Yay.
So, Lorena, you've been on several times. I think the first time I ever met you was when we were doing Let Our Children Go with Mark and Terry. And I remember you told your story, and it was just shocking to me. And at that time, it had been probably about 7 years or so, maybe closer to 8, I think, when the incident happened. And you did a lot of legwork. You covered a lot of ground. Amazing stuff that you did. I mean, you reached out to television crews, you reached out to local media, you reached out to local senators and representatives. You basically were on the phone or at their door daily. And you made change. You made the change that was necessary to win the battle that you were up against. Now, I know you haven't stopped fighting, of course. You are an advocate and you're still fighting for others, let alone the crimes that were perpetrated against your own family. So let's just start at the beginning for newer audience members out there so they understand your story and what Lorina is all about.
Yes, thank you, Gino. In 2015, I had my second son, and he was getting sick, so I kept taking him to his pediatrician, the children's hospital, and they kept misdiagnosing him with a stomach bug because he was vomiting, and I couldn't figure out why. At his 4-month checkup, his pediatrician said, "Hey, just take him to the children's hospital to have images taken. He should be fine. He's not sick or anything right now, but he should be fine. And just as a precaution, have images taken of his head." And my children's father took him to the children's hospital because I was feeling sick, and I stayed in and I was taking care of my other son at the time. And he called me and he said that they took images of his head, and they're trying to say that they found fluid in his head and a little bit of blood, and they were trying to say that someone abused him. But his father and I knew no one abused him in any way. I went to the children's hospital and I told the pediatric neurosurgeon, and I said, my son has never been hurt in any way. Could this be something else, such as a medical condition? And he told me yes, but since he's a baby and can't talk, we're just going to go with abuse, and walked away. They called CPS to the children's hospital in Austin, Texas. They interrogated us, and they tried to say that their father shook him when he did not. And it was such a horrible experience for my family and I. CPS actually ended up illegally taking my children from me while we were visiting family in Oklahoma. And it was really tough to try to get a second opinion because I asked the hospital if my son could have a second opinion. They said no, they don't feel it's necessary. And they still wrongfully took my children from me. And they placed them in the foster care system, and they refused to place my children with family, even though both of our attorneys asked the judge and asked the court system if they could place my children with family, and they said no, foster care, and gave no reason. It took 2.5 years to get a correct diagnosis for my son, and they actually charged my children's father with 2 serious felonies of injury to a child. He had a top secret government and military security clearance, and he had to battle the criminal court system for 2.5 years. And we had to go to family court and fight to get our children back. And after 5 months, I finally got my children back. I ended up finding out through the criminal defense attorney. He said, "Hey, let me look through his medical records, and you'd be shocked at what you can find in there." So he scheduled a meeting several months later, and he said, I found that in your son's birth records that he actually had a birth injury, and we'll contact a medical expert to confirm. And then the medical expert confirmed that my son actually had a birth injury and a condition called benign external hydrocephalus. And it was just a huge eye opener for me because I didn't know that this was happening so often to others. And even though this happened 10 years ago, so many families are contacting me and they're going through a similar situation that their children also have medical conditions, but they're so quick to assume and wrongfully accuse of child abuse, and it's destroying children's and families' lives.
And I think it's important to note that CPS actually crossed state lines in your case, which
Yes.
I don't even know if anybody knows that's a thing. Like whatever happened to this jurisdiction that the police are always talking about, and yet CPS comes over into Oklahoma to seize your children from you?
Yes, what happened was I was just visiting family and the safety plan had expired. It was like only a 30-day safety plan and it expired already like a month and a half prior. And I told my attorney, my approved supervisor was my cousin. She had to leave her 4 kids and stay with me in Texas while her kids were in Oklahoma. And she really missed her children. So I asked my attorney, what do I do? Do I just let her go? Or do I go with her? And he said, I'll contact CPS and let them know you're just visiting family. And he recommended to just go with her, even though the safety plan had expired. And that's all we were doing is we were just visiting family. So we drove about 6 hours into Oklahoma and we were visiting family, and CPS Texas called me and they're like, where are you? Where are the children? And I told them my attorney has tried to reach you several times by phone and to let you know that we're just visiting family. And so then they actually falsified court documents, lied to the judge, and said that my children were in immediate danger when they were not. So they called CPS Oklahoma, and CPS Oklahoma came over and she said, I'm going to do my own investigation. And she met with the family that we were with, my approved supervisor, and my children. And she said, I deem your children safe and I will not take them from you. And about 5 to 7 days later, CPS Texas illegally crossed state lines and just took my children from me. And it was completely heartbreaking and devastating.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for what you guys had to go through, Lorina, and your children. Just no words can describe that pain. So the good news in your case is your children are back where they belong in your care. The damage has been done, and there's of course there's going to be trauma and other issues that stem from what these people have done. Let's talk about how you got your children back and the steps you took to do that.
The steps that I had to take to get my children back is they have you take a psychological evaluation. They have you take mandatory therapy and a protective parenting class or any classes that they want you to take. So I did everything that they asked, and I only got to see my sons 2 days a week for only 2 hours at a time in the CPS visitation center, which was horrible because there's this huge window there and they're watching you this whole time and they're treating you like you're this horrible criminal when you're not. And every time after those meetings or those visitations with my children, they would cry and beg. My eldest son would beg to go home, and he was 4 at the time, and my baby was around 5 months old. And it was just so heartbreaking to see them have to go through that. And then the caseworker would just take them and put them back in foster care. We had to go to court. We had to hire 3 attorneys to defend us in court, and we had to sell our house to pay for the mounting attorney fees. My children's father lost his job because they wrongfully accused him, and he had a top secret government and military security clearance, and he was no longer able to travel to the bases. And he was an engineering technician, and he wasn't able to perform his job duties anymore after being wrongfully charged. So it completely destroyed our lives, and my heart goes out to the many families that are going through this situation, and that's why I've shared my story so much with the news and the media. NBC News shared our story nationwide last year, and we also filed a federal lawsuit against the Children's Hospital, the child abuse pediatrician, and several CPS caseworkers. And as everyone could know and understand, it's not an easy thing to try to hold them accountable for what they've done. And the court system is really tough to go through, and it takes a very long time.
This is a common trait that we see, especially with women. I don't know what it is about the mama bears. It's that maternal instinct, I guess. But you guys just never stop fighting. But then you also advocate for others, which I find absolutely incredible. I mean, because, as Christians, obviously it's to serve humanity. We're here to serve. We're not to be served. I mean, it's nice when people serve us, but we're called to serve others. And what you're doing for the greater good for people that have gone through this, you can relate to it. You can understand that type of pain, and others like yourself that are doing the same thing. And I think that's incredible. I mean, that's just wear it as a badge of honor. For something so awful that was perpetrated against you, you've turned it into something good. And that's what the devil tries to do. He tries to take everything God has made that's good and smear it and turn it into something ugly. And then we as believers have to fight and claw and scratch to do what's right. And just kudos to you, Lorena. I mean, I always thought the world of you, still do, for what you're doing. And the fight inside of you just does that fire doesn't burn. I mean, it doesn't quench, does it? It just keeps burning and raging.
Yeah, honestly, it gets really exhausting and overwhelming at times, and you feel like giving up, but you just can't. Just knowing the fact that other children and families are suffering, I just couldn't just walk away. Like for a year, I really tried to heal from this because it was really traumatic towards my family and I. And I just felt this heaviness on my heart. Like every time I pray that God wanted me to fight for change and to fight for the children and the families. It took 2.5. The children's hospital that we were at, when I asked them if I could have a second opinion, they said no, they don't feel it's necessary. I fought with other organizations and families to get a law passed in Texas that would allow parents a second opinion before wrongful and traumatic removal of the children. And after 2.5 years, it was finally passed. And I hope that could be a federal law someday in all states, all throughout the United States. But in the past 10 years, honestly, so many mothers and families have contacted me, and this is happening literally in every county in every state all over the United States. I was told that there's about 600,000 children in the foster care system. And the Children's Bureau did a report that showed that about 91% of those child abuse cases are found to be false and unsubstantiated, which is very concerning. 91% of 600,000 children, it's a huge number that there needs to be an investigation.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that stat up because that is a huge number, and their numbers are really huge. There's 91% unsubstantiated, and then also 90% of sex trafficking victims come from the foster system. And I think I even sent that link to you, Gino. I don't know if you have that one or not. It was in our chat. But that is not my stat. There you go. This is their own stats. So, and their numbers are not usually correct. So it's probably 100%. But these are huge, huge numbers that if you think about it, if it was abolished, sex trafficking would be abolished. If you want to figure out how to abolish sex trafficking, abolish foster care. That's crazy.
That's the
I also
answer.
Yeah, I also spoke with a mother that she was in the medical system. She worked in the medical system. And she actually went through a similar situation with her child, that her child had a medical condition and she was also wrongfully accused of abuse. And we were speaking, and she said, honestly, the awareness of your documentary, The Hidden Truth, whenever it comes out, is so important because those of us that work in the medical system, we are trained to only see one thing: abuse. Like my child had fluid in his head, yes, but everyone in the hospital, in the medical system, they're being trained to see, okay, if we see fluid in a child's MRI, it's automatically abuse. And that's the problem, is the doctors also need to be trained in all the other types of medical conditions that it can be. Like with my son, he was never shaken or abused in any way, but he has hydrocephalus and a birth injury. And it's very concerning that they're not being trained all the medical conditions that can easily be misunderstood as abuse when they're actually medical conditions. And that whole, we have to we have to go on the side of caution and just take the children. They don't realize how much trauma it is towards the children. These are lifelong impacts that affect families for the rest of their lives.
the fact that you had to help author a bill in Texas that gives parents the right to have a second opinion is absolutely ridiculous if you really think that through. I mean, why in the world? I mean, that's medical tyranny, by the way, but why in the world wouldn't a parent whose treasure is their children not want a second opinion, even a third or fourth opinion? Like, are you kidding me? Like, who's to limit the parent on how many opinions they get? I mean, these doctors make mistakes, scientists make mistakes, people make mistakes. We're human. But that just shows that the system is flawed and, well, it's actually designed this way. I know Sylvia was going to correct me on that. It's designed this way. It's to steal children because there's a lot of money here. And so, and if the pediatricians are in on it, some of the hospitals are in on it, everybody's getting a piece of the pie. And who gets screwed in the end? The parent and the children, because they're the ones that have to suffer at the hands of these wicked and evil people. So, Lorina, I want you to talk about the bill a little bit, because first of all, we know that the Constitution doesn't exist in family court, which is another ridiculous thing. But second of all, how many states actually have a second opinion? I know Georgia now does, or will be shortly. But
No,
how
they
is
do
that
now.
now?
It's
It's in law
called
now.
Ridge's Law. It's called Ridge's Law. But the thing about this bill, and I don't know if Lorina's is the same way, that like it still does not give the poor people a chance, because a lot of the families that I deal with, they don't have a house to sell. They don't have a car. I mean, one client, she was living in a homeless shelter, trying to get away from an abuser, and the courts, they make it so difficult, and they prey on the poor. Thank God that Lorena did have the means, and this law does help, but it still doesn't help the poor, and that's my only concern.
Yes, I totally understand what you're saying, Sylvia. Also, a mother that is also fighting for change, she told me that, we're fighting for all these laws to get passed to help other children and families, but the problem is that CPS just tends to go change their policies and procedures. And for some reason, it seems like they don't have to follow the law. So it's definitely been challenging trying to raise awareness and fight for change. But that's why I've been sharing my story with the news and the media, is if people don't know this is a huge problem, how can everyone unite and fight for change together? So that awareness is huge and so important.
If there were watchdog groups or oversight, maybe they could stand on the law, because people would make them stand on it. But right now, there's no one looking over their shoulder, so they're just taking all the cookies out of the jar. And this is the problem we're up against. It's so flawed that I just truly believe it's impossible to fix at this point. Yeah, we can put band-aids on it here and there, and maybe it helps a few families. But in general, the numbers are so skewed in their favor. I just don't see a way of correcting it the way it is right now. And these are my personal opinions. I mean, we've all had different ideas and things, but I mean, I personally think it's got to be defunded. I think you defund it and rebuild this thing. And in the meantime, you have an interim program that's actually helping actual abused children, not the labels they're slapping on some of these kids and on the parents. And then maybe you can correct the problem. Lorina, what's your thoughts on that? What do you think needs to happen?
I think there are some things that are going on behind the scenes, like the Chevron case. I heard that with the Chevron case being passed in I believe it's the Senate, right? That it's gonna put restrictions on 3 and 4 letter agencies, like within our government. But the only thing is, like, how long? I think it's gonna take time, definitely years, to fix the system because it is broken.
But do you think it's repairable, or do you think it needs to just basically be scrapped and start over?
I think it is repairable, because if we just destroy the whole system, then there could be only chaos and confusion and just no order in the system. But I think that behind the scenes things are being done to try to change things, but it's going to take years to fix the system for sure, because it has been broken for many years.
Well, here's the $1 million question. Will anybody be held accountable?
I hope
Right.
so. I hope so.
If there's no accountability, if no one's being thrown in jail or reprimanded in any way, which right now it just seems like everybody gets away scot-free pretty much, then there's really no hope, because if the wheels of justice spin very slowly when they spin properly, but when it's being obfuscated or obstructed, and there's actually an umbrella of protection over these people, they're hidden. I think exposure is an awareness to the public, and then when people understand that it's their taxpayer money that's funding it all, I think that's when real change can happen. And that's why shows like ours and other people that are doing similar things, it's so important that, if you're watching, please share, like, subscribe. All that stuff helps, because we can get bring more awareness to the subject. And then who knows, maybe actually the mainstream media would actually do their job. They helped Lorena in her case, locally anyway, and then NBC News, like you said, did the story. But why isn't every network covering this? This should be like
Yes.
major news.
Yes, and that's why I think your podcast and your show so much, because you're shining a light on the truth, and that's what we need to do. And I believe that with God, all things are possible, and there can be change someday. But this awareness is so important, because how are people supposed to know that this is a problem, and how do we unite to fight for change together if we don't know this is a huge problem? So this awareness is so important. And I thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you. KK, anything to say?
Yeah, I have a lot to say actually. I've just been letting y'all talk. Well, first I want to say thank you for being obedient and just, just listening to the Lord. And also, one thing that I've been hearing is that sometimes we have to go through the pain to help other families. So, like, sometimes we have to go through it to see for ourselves so that we can pull other people out.
Amen.
And so, and then another thing is, I mean, I don't know, uh, quite sure if the system should be completely demolished or repaired. I'm not really sure about that, because it's like you hear this side and then you hear this side. So it's kind of like, okay, it's like up in the air right now. But I do think there is a lack of education, but I do think that right now that's where everybody is like they're trying to get educated, and like all of us, we're trying to get educated and help people know what to look for and things like that. And then also the awareness. So I mean, I 100% agree. The awareness is totally a true. And also, I mean, a lot of times I just have conversations with people, like quick conversations, people I don't know, people I do know. I'll just mention it here and there, but like I do it in bite sizes. I try not to overwhelm people, because I know it is a very dark subject, and I get it. A lot of people's attention span is not that long. So I try to like spoon feed people, like, hey, like I was in the system. This is what I saw. This is how the trafficking was. And then, hey, this is what other families are going through. They're going through the same similar things that I went through. So, I mean, I think most importantly is just talking to people, going out in the community. Like, I mean, I'll talk to a lot of people, even when I'm Instacarting, or even like just at the grocery store or wherever I'm at. So I think that's a good way to get awareness, is just having small conversations with people, and even posting, making videos, and maybe even possibly getting ads on like the billboard. I saw one today, and so yeah.
Yes, thank you, KK, and thank you for all your work too to help others and for being an awesome advocate. And
Thank
that's
you.
something. Sorry, what's that?
I was just saying thank
Thank you. And what you said is so right. And it's happening so often that people I talk to and meet, I speak about what we've been through, and they're like, wow, my friend has also been through a similar situation. And my cousin, she's an attorney in Los Angeles, and several years ago, she said, hey, can you talk to my friend in Florida? She's going through a very similar situation. So it's like, it happens that often, and people are just not aware of it. It's happening literally in every county in every state all across our nation. And I was also featured in a documentary called Take Care of Maya on Netflix. And that documentary received 10 million views within the first few weeks of when it was aired on Netflix. And I'm just so thankful that that's also an amazing documentary that has brought this huge awareness with millions of views all across the world.
I'm praying that all of our documentaries will get a lot of views too, because there's so many different aspects of like the abuse, the foster care system, medical abuse, trafficking. There's just so many different rabbit holes. So, I just pray for all of our documentaries to also go viral because it's very important.
Yeah, so true. And our documentary, The Hidden Truth, we've been filming and working so hard to get everything together. The director's done an amazing job. I'm the executive producer of our documentary, and Sylvia is also featured in it as well. Sylvia, how did you like filming?
And so I was telling them that it's actually you have to be very quiet. It's not the funnest actually because you got cameras and you got lights and you have to be really quiet and you can't you can't like be over there crunching on food or chips and it catches everything. But
Yeah.
it was fun to kind of experience it because it is so different than a podcast. And I do like that Lorena has so many different people in this documentary that shows um, the failures of the foster system. And then um, um, your baby's daddy, he had me crying because he was like he had to fight criminal charges, and people don't realize what they put like families through. It's not just um, family court, but it's criminal, and he was looking at a long time in prison if he didn't win. I mean, like they literally torture you.
Mhm.
So, and that's a lot of the families that are in Georgia went through. They weren't just fighting for their kids, but they were fighting for their life. And these people, they don't care. They really do not care. They don't care what happens to them. They don't care what happens to the children. It's like they have like dissociate from their job or something. I don't know how they do it, to be honest with you, because like you said, the caseworker falsified documents. That was it, the hospital that falsified also, and they held medical records and things like that.
Yes, they never told the hospital where my son was born at never told us he had a birth injury. And then the children's hospital knew he had hydrocephalus, never told us anything, but it's in the medical records. And they made a false report of abuse when they knew he wasn't abused. There's no evidence of any child abuse. And what you're saying is so right too. It's like that's why we fight so hard for change, as well as because the children. Can you imagine being only 4 years old, like my oldest son at the time, and you're taken from your parents in your home and you're placed with in foster care with strangers? The emotional trauma is so impactful and it could affect children for the rest of their lives. And I'm so
Mm.
glad you mentioned that too about my children's father, that he was charged with two serious felonies and he had to go through the criminal court system for 2.5 years. They placed an ankle monitor on him and put him on house arrest for a few months. And it's just, I know a mother, she's in Tennessee and she was wrongfully convicted of 16 years. She's serving 16 years and she was wrongfully convicted. And that's why we fight for change so much, is for the children, the families, and the people that are in jail and prison right now, and they're in fact innocent.
Mm. They really love to smear the parent's name like really badly. And I mean, it's crazy that you brought up the ankle monitor. Oh my goodness, why is it freezing up?
You're good. We can see you.
But no, like I'm glad that you brought that up because like, just like how you said your baby daddy had went and had ankle monitor. I mean, that's pretty much what they did to me too. Like they put me on an ankle monitor, anger management classes. So really the same way that they're treating the children is the same way they're treating the parents, the
And,
families.
and KK, to people that don't know your story, um, what who is they? And
Oh, my bad. So when I got in foster care, before I went to like my foster home, I got locked up and I went to jail. And so DFACS basically put me in jail first. And then after I got out of there, I went into my first foster home. And then they said that I guess because I was a runner and I had like anger management, I had to basically be on an ankle monitor and I had to be take anger classes. So yeah,
I'm so sorry you went through that.
that was
Yeah,
yes.
and she's like the sweetest person ever, right? And they don't mention that she was running because she was being abused, right? So they literally can twist and invert everything. And I have been in court where the DAs, the caseworkers, the stories that they say are so lavish and so slanderous. And they think that because they have immunity, that they can get in there and say whatever they want. But I've been looking up the laws, and the laws state that it's not if they're committing a crime, and this even goes for a judge, that they don't have immunity. It's just the people assume that they do and they go along with it. And it's just the same thing with CPS. CPS has so much power because the people just assume they have this power when they have no power. The Bill of Rights was for the government. That's what the government is supposed to follow, not the citizens. And I feel like that's what they've inverted. They've made it to where they're making it like the people have to follow the Bill of Rights and not the government, when the government is supposed to follow those Bill of Rights and they're breaking it.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
This whole cloak of immunity is kind of a joke, to be honest. I don't know what that noise was. Was that me in the background? That was weird. But this thing of immunity, we hear it all the time, but it's like the shield that they've hid behind. But if you're committing crimes, they're punishable if the law is upheld, if there's people that are willing to push and go forward. But see, the problem is most people hear the word immunity and they stop. God, we got to cease all action. I guess we're never going to get him. The same thing's going on with Barack Obama right now. Everybody's like claiming, he's got this presidential immunity and stuff. I watched a great podcast the other day of a guy, a lawyer, going through what it actually means. He's like, go after this guy 100%. He committed crimes, treasonous crimes. Like, so it's the same thing with these people. Just because they're wearing that robe and they have a gavel in their hand does not mean they're above the law. We're all unequally protected and judged by the law. So, immunities to me is kind of laughable. Does it make it more difficult? Yes, for sure. Because of that stigma that comes with it. And then I'm sure there's lots of lawyers that are just going to walk away and say, I want nothing to do with that.
Yes,
But
and an attorney
gotta fight.
actually told me that my children's first, fourth, and 14th civil rights amendments were violated because, wrongful search and seizure of the government. It's just the children's civil rights and parents' civil rights are being violated, but it's really tough to hold them accountable. And I hope and pray that our federal lawsuit will go through and everything will work out to hold them accountable someday. And the same thing for other families too. We hope it'll set precedents for other families to hold them accountable.
Yeah, I think the other aspect of it is the money, right? Like going after these people, it costs a lot of money because you're up against people that have a lot of money. Let's face it, they made a whole bunch of money off our children. Let's just state the facts. At the tune of billions of dollars every year across this nation. So, that is a system that you have to go against, but it doesn't mean the system can't break. That system has all kinds of gears and cogs in it that can be jammed up. And it comes through exposure, awareness, and then action. That's how it happens. That's how it's always happened in American history. People talk about civil disobedience. What does civil disobedience look like? It's not raiding the judge's home or threatening their lives. No, it's doing it lawfully and protesting lawfully. We have that right to protest and to bring awareness to a subject that is a dark subject. I mean, I wish, Lorina, I can't wait for the day when we don't have to discuss this anymore and no children are being stolen from families and we can talk about healing. Like that
Yes.
day, I believe will come. But at this point, there's lots of families every day that are being torn apart by a wicked and evil system. So unfortunately, we have to keep talking about it. And I do think the day is coming when justice will come. And these people will pay for their crimes. I pray that they repent. I'm a Christian. I pray for my enemies. I don't wish ill on them. I'm sure they wish ill on us, but I do not wish ill on them. I pray that they turn from their wicked ways and then they get served appropriately by the law, whatever crimes they've committed, that they would serve the time for those crimes. That's what I hope. And if the death penalty applies, and I know lots of Christians disagree with me on this one, then so be it. That's in our Constitution. The death penalty definitely comes into play with, I think, some of these cases, what they've done to families. And if the it's the crime, the time, what is that? The time has to fit the crime, right? So whatever's appropriate, then so be it. That's not for me to determine, though.
It's if you do the crime, you do the time.
That's the one I was looking for. Thank you. Gosh, KK's on it. You are on it.
Also, yeah, awesome job. Also, another thing too is, that saying like you're innocent till proven guilty. It's actually you're guilty until you prove your own innocence, because we're having to work with our attorneys to prove our innocence. Our attorneys don't know our story. They don't have all the facts. So I spent so many hours working with our attorneys to fight for our innocence. It is so important for parents to be an advocate for their children and fight for a second opinion and fight for the truth. Because even the situation, I feel like it's a light that's being shined on the truth, and I have a feeling the truth will set us free. And our struggle is our strength. Like, even though it's a horrible situation, it made me stronger, brought me closer to God, and increased my faith and trust in Him. And I have hope. We have to stay strong and not lose our hope and faith, even though it's been so hard for so many years for so many families. And I hope our documentary, it should be released hopefully by the fall of 2025. I hope that our documentary will help add steam and much needed traction, for much needed changes. Because our documentary is going to be a huge awareness about the system, about how, a child could be so easily misdiagnosed. And we have medical experts speaking about that as well, which will be really interesting.
Yeah, I think the documentary is going to do wonders. Sylvia, I want you to speak to what Lorina was saying, though, that these parents are just assumed guilty and they have to prove their innocence. So, I mean, I know you deal as an advocate with lots of phone calls, text messages, emails regarding the subject. So, out of all those people that send you messages, that does seem to be the pattern, doesn't it?
Oh
Guilty.
yeah, it's a pattern, and it's a playbook, and it's a lot of the same people, because I will tell you that when I call a person out, I start getting calls about that person saying this person is the guardian ad litem on my case. This person is, so it is the same people, it is the same playbook, and it's a script. They all have a script that they have to follow, and it's inverted. Like Lorena said, they have to show their innocence, and and it's a bias. We have a bias system, like they make sure that they win the majority of cases, and it's the people that are left to fight for their life. And if you don't have that support group, if you don't have the means, if you don't have the money, if you don't have, you literally end up in prison. And sometimes even when you do have those means, because they have the system so inverted, and it's not for the people, it's for the people in power, and it's because of the incentives. When we talk about, do we want to abolish the system or not, I think you have to get rid of the incentive. There should not be an incentive to diagnose children for hospitals. Hospitals should not have an incentive for pediatricians to receive an incentive when they diagnose a child as a child abuse. That's trafficking. That's the definition of trafficking. So if we look at the incentives that are received, that's where you need to get rid of.
And
That's a
one of the oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's a great segue, because I do want to play Nancy Schaefer's video. It's about 8 minutes long, and that sums up exactly what Sylvia was talking about. But go ahead, Lorena.
And that's the thing though too, is there's these child abuse pediatricians in all of the children's hospitals all throughout the United States. And our medical expert said that she was not properly trained or qualified to read my son's images correctly. If she was, then she would have been able to correctly diagnose him herself. So these child abuse pediatricians are these doctors that claim they're specialists in all different kinds of medical conditions, but it's not possible. That's why you have a neurologist. That's why you have a cardiologist. It's not possible for a doctor to be a specialist in all these medical conditions. And that's the problem, is that children are having honest to God medical conditions, but doctors and CPS and everyone else involved are being so quick to wrongfully accuse and charge people of child abuse when they have medical conditions. There's children that have genetic conditions such as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where they could have broken bones easily, and then when they're babies or toddlers and they have a broken bone, they wrongfully accuse the parents of child abuse, take the child and assume it's abuse, but they don't run the proper precautions and medical tests to rule out, genetic conditions or something else. It's just a very messed up system where it's like children have medical conditions, and why are they not taking the precautions to correctly diagnose the children before wrongfully accusing of abuse and traumatizing the children and the families?
Well, I also think that they also have to like blame it on the parents so that they can cover themselves. Sometimes like they know that they're in the wrong, and all you really have to do is be like, "Hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry." Like at least be upfront and tell the parent that yes, they might be upset, but some pediatricians or doctors don't even have the courage to even say that. And so what they have to do is like they have to trace their tracks and be like, "Nope, I think the best way is to blame it on the parent so that
They got
their company."
pride.
Huh?
I'm like, it has nothing to do with them being, they're so prideful.
Well,
They're
Right,
so
it'll
prideful.
it'll destroy their careers if they ever admit they're wrong. So they often
right.
just move to another state. Like the child abuse pediatrician in our situation, she just moved to another state, and there's like 7 or 8 other families that have contacted me, and they're saying they're going through a similar situation with the same child abuse pediatrician that also misdiagnosed my son with abuse when he was never abused. He has a medical condition.
So
Yeah.
here's the conspiracy theorist in me. You said there was an unqualified person reading the X-rays and the scans, right? So it's almost like it's designed that way, that if they can put a person that's incompetent in those positions, they're useful idiots, right? Like they can just use them to gain what they're trying to do. I mean, that's just me thinking outside the box, but it sure
They need
seems
a
like we've
yes
seen that
person.
before. Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yeah. They need a yes person, and they need someone that's controllable. And it's hard to control smart people. Let's just say that.
And the other problem too is in the medical, like in school, in colleges, they're training them to believe that this is abuse. Not like, hey, if a child has fluid in their head, it could be a condition called hydrocephalus. But instead, oh, if there's fluid in their head, they're most likely abuse, and that's it. So that's a huge problem too, is what are they training these doctors to believe and see? It's like they're training them to only see abuse and that's it. It's like that child can have so many medical conditions that they're not that doctor or that nurse or the physician's assistant isn't even trained to actually see other conditions. They're trained to just say, oh, there's fluid, it's abuse, and that's it. So there's also a huge, broken system within the medical system in colleges and how they're being trained.
Lorena, that sounds like they're teaching a playbook, because aren't they supposed to teach doctors how to find, like, you're not supposed to have a playbook if you're a doctor, right? Aren't you supposed to find out what the cause is and what's going on so that you can help the family and you can get them better? But what
Yes.
you're talking about is an actual playbook they're teaching them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's indoctrination is what it is. They're brainwashing them. There's no objectivity. It's all subjective. It's you do this, fall in line, and everything will be okay, and you're going to make a really good living. It's really sad where we're at. It wasn't like this forever. I mean, there was a time when doctors actually did their job. Uh, and I'm not saying all of them are bad. Of course not. There's bad apples in every occupation, every walk of life. But it sure does seem like there's a whole bunch of them when it comes to this subject matter. So, all right. So I want to go ahead and play Nancy Schaefer's video. It's 8 minutes. This is kind of a summary of what she talked about, one of her famous speeches. We played this last week when we did the Nancy Schaefer special, but I think it's well worth a second watch because I got to tell you, Nancy lays it out line by line, detail by detail. It's the perfect outline of what is going on. It hasn't changed. They might have modified a few things now and gotten a little better at it and making more money for sure. But this was in 2009 or 2008, something like that, when she did the speech. So, it's basically the same thing. And I think if we just follow what she's talking about and we check them off the list, we solve the problems. So let's give it a watch. We'll be back in a few.
I have served in the Georgia State Senate for 4 years. One of my greatest pleasures, other than my sonogram bill, was getting the resolution passed to stop the North American Union. However, for 4 years, I have been confronted with families struggling to remove their children from the clutches of Child Protective Services. I wrote a scathing report last year on the corruption in Child Protective Services, and an update and copies are out on the table. During the last session of the Georgia General Assembly, I introduced Senate Bill 415 relating to juvenile proceedings, and copies of that bill are attached to the report on the tables. The Bill 415 called for the time allotted for the Department of Human Resources to provide emergency care to a child without a court order to be reduced from 7 days to 72 hours. It required a court order to enter the residence of a parent or guardian to seize a child. It called for family court to be open to the public. Confidentiality and secrecy in family court protects the wrong people. It provided that immunity in the system shall not extend to the seizures of children that are found to be in violation, nor to the administration of medication to a child over the objection of the parent or custodian, and it provided the state from applying for obtaining, receiving, or accepting adoption incentive payments under the Federal Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997. The Department of Child Protective Services has become a protected empire built on taking children and separating families. This is not to say that there are not those children who do need to be removed from wretched situations and need protection. However, my report is concerned with the children and parents caught up in legal kidnapping. Having worked with probably 300 cases statewide and hundreds across the country, and in nearly every state, I am convinced there is no accountability in Child Protective Services. I have come to several conclusions. 2 or 3 are: 1, that poor parents, not always, but oftentimes, are targeted to lose their children because they do not have the wherewithal to hire an attorney and fight the system. That caseworkers and social workers are very often guilty of fraud. They withhold and destroy evidence. They fabricate evidence, and they seek to terminate parental rights unnecessarily. That the separation of families and the snatching of children is growing as the business grows because state and local governments have grown accustomed to having these taxpayer dollars to balance their ever-growing budgets. That the bureaucracy is huge. Look at who is getting paid. State employees, attorneys, court investigators, guardian ad litems, court personnel and judges. There are psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists, counselors, foster parents, adoptive parents, and on and on. All are looking to the children in state custody to provide job security. That the Adoption and the Safe Families Act, set in motion first in 1974 by Walter Mondale and later in 1997 by President Bill Clinton, offered cash bonuses to the states for every child they adopted out of foster care. In order to receive the adoption incentive bonuses, local Child Protective Services would need more children. They must have merchandise that sells, and they must have plenty so the buyer can choose. Some counties often offer $4,000 to $6,000 bonus for each child adopted out to strangers, and an additional $2,000 for a special needs child. Employees work to keep the federal dollars flowing. But that is only the beginning figure in the formula in which each bonus is multiplied by the percentage that the state has managed to exceed its baseline adoption number. Therefore, states and local communities work hard to reach their goals for increased numbers of adoptions for children in foster care. As you can see, this program is offered from the very top and is run by Health and Human Resources. This is why victims in Child Protective Services get no help from their legislators. It explains why my bill, Senate 415, suffered such defeat in the Judicial Committee, and why I was cut off at every juncture, and why I was defeated myself last month for my re-election by another Republican. That tax dollars are being used to keep this gigantic system afloat. Many grandparents have called me to get custody of their grandparents before being lost in the system. Grandparents who lose their grandchildren to strangers have lost their own flesh and blood. The children lose their family heritage, and grandparents, and parents too, lose the connection of their heirs. And that the National Center on Child Abuse and Neglect in 1998 reported that 6 times more children died in foster care than in the general public, and that once removed to official safety, these children are far more likely to suffer abuse, including sexual molestation, than in the general population. Think what that number is today, 10 years later. Here are a couple of the recommendations on my list. Call for an independent audit of all state child protective services and for a federal congressional hearing on child protective services. Abolish the federal and state financial incentives that have turned child protective services into a business that separates families for money. I have witnessed such injustice and harm brought to so many families that I am not sure if reform of the system is even possible. The system cannot be trusted. It does not serve the people. It obliterates families and children simply because it has the power to do so. What I have said to you in these few minutes is that we must confront the fraud in Child Protective Services. Child Protective Services seizes children using the very system that is paid for by the taxpayer, who actually believes it is used to protect abused and neglected children. The bureaucracy of workers benefit financially by a system that converts children into cash while destroying their families and their lives. No child who emerges from the system can ever be sound or whole. Many disappear and never are ever heard from again. God will not stand for what is happening to our children and our families. His heart beats for these children. He will lift up the downtrodden. What is happening in America regarding child protective services is a criminal political phenomenon, and it must be brought to an end. Please join me in working to help set our children and our families free. To whom much is given, much is required. As you pray for this nation, pray for the upcoming election, and for our national financial crisis, please pray for our children and for our families. We all must press on and win this race.
A protected empire offering merchandise.
Yeah.
Can't say it any better than that.
No, she lays it out so well. Like, she just lays it out. And I love how she says at the end, like, join us in saving our children and pray for our children. And, you know, that's really what I noticed when I worked in the system. It was the children that were suffering. They didn't want to be in foster care. You know, like Lorina is saying, her kids would cry whenever she would leave. They didn't want to be there. They didn't know who they were with. They were with strangers. It literally blows my mind that people think taking kids from their support, the home that they're used to, and placing them with strangers is a good idea. Like it's honestly not a good idea. And I don't know why people think that strangers are going to treat kids better than their biological parents. Nancy also said that children are 6 times more likely to die in care than in their biological home.
Yeah, it's the assumption though, Sylvia. People,
Mhm.
this is why I say awareness is key, because I was one of those people. I thought CPS was doing good work protecting children. And then when you're made aware of it and your eyes are open, you're like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. Like, we're actually trafficking children with our taxpayer money. Like, this is crazy. And so once your eyes are open, you never go back, right? So when I lay my head on the pillow at night, I'm praying for all those families, praying for the system to change. But it's been entrenched in our society for a long time. I mean, she mentioned Walter Mondale. He was the one that came up with this idea back in 1974. And I've read the original bill, and it does talk about in 74, women's liberation was just kind of getting going around that time. Women were starting to get in the workforce and all that stuff. But before that, there was a lot of divorce, and women couldn't afford to raise children. So the bill originally was designed to help those women, so they would get extra money every month to pay for groceries and utility bills and their mortgage or rent or whatever. So it may have had, at its beginning, at its genesis, there may have been some good intentions, but just as we've seen with all kinds of things that start out good, as soon as people realize that they can make a buck, they're going to figure out a way to do it. And that's what's happened over decades. It's just been monopolized. And I don't even know. What would probably be a good investigation to see all the people that pen their name to these bills to pass them, and show all those people, because did they read the bill? I mean, someone had to say, if someone actually read these bills when they were being codified, they had to be sitting there going, boy, this might cause incentivization. This might cause children to be merchandise, canned goods. Like, someone had to see that and bring it up. I mean, you'd think they'd call a session and say, hey guys, like, I think we need to rewrite this bill. There's an opportunity for wicked people to step in and abuse the system.
Yeah,
But
I think they did have that meeting, but it was for the wicked people.
I think so too. So
It was more like, hey, look what we can do. We can create a fund off of trafficking people.
I believe that too, but it's I can't read people's hearts. That's God's job, but it sure seems that way. And by the way, if you're a senator or representative and you just happen to see this somewhere, yes, it's happening on your watch right now. So you have an opportunity to change it. Be a hero to these families. Step up to the plate. Speak for those that can't speak for themselves. These are vulnerable people. I mean, Sylvia mentioned earlier, a lot of them are poverty stricken. They don't have means to defend themselves. So the system just feeds off of them. Like, you're supposed to be representing us. You're working for us. Say something.
Yes, and
Okay, so Lorina, you've actually had good success with some of the politicians in your old neck of the woods.
yeah, I've had meetings with over 14 senators, state representatives, even a mayor, and there are some lawmakers that are fighting for change. There's a state representative, and he's the chair for the human services in Texas, and he was fighting for change, and he did help get that bill passed that would allow a second opinion. And there are some senators out there that were also fighting for change, and they actually were able to get that bill passed as well. Because I learned that once a bill is on the floor, it has to go through, the state and the Senate. So it's so important for the Senate to know and senators to know about it, and actually like be what's it called? Like before that bill. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. My mind went blank for a second there. But there are some senators and state representatives that have been fighting for change, and I hope and pray that there will be more someday, because the numbers aren't very high, but thankfully I have had meetings that were with some great senators and state representatives that are fighting for change.
Yeah, we don't want to paint with a broad brush. There's people that do good work. So, it's not fair to everybody to say that, just, oh, they're all terrible. They're bad people. No, there's really good people, but they're up against it too. I mean, there's a lot of let's face it, there's a lot of peer pressure at the state
And,
level and federal level for sure.
and retaliation, like Senator Schaefer was.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know, I mean, yeah, Senator Schaefer and her husband were murdered. They called it a suicide.
I love
Right.
that.
Go ahead, KK.
No, I said I love that she basically, paid for the cost, like it cost her own life. She was willing to, do the work regardless if it costs her life. And I
Mhm.
think that's the type of people we need, is that they're gonna keep fighting even if it costs their life.
I think
Yeah.
she was bold and she was a hero for speaking the truth, even though they removed her from the Senate and everything that happened with her. But that's what we need to do, is just, be bold and try to speak the truth. And hopefully the truth will help set all these families and children free someday. But it's been, the system has been broken for many years, and we just hope and pray for change. And it's really tough to be, a mother, to go through this situation and the emotional trauma that you have to heal from. It's been years to heal from. The day that CPS and the sheriffs came and just ripped my children out of my arms was really, it's an emotional traumatic experience. And people don't realize, this is a really long journey to heal from. And no matter how much therapy and everything that you try to heal from it, these are lifelong impacts that affect children and families for the rest of their lives. And that's something that they need to be aware of. Is they're just saying things like, oh, let's just go on the side of caution and just take the children and investigate. But they need to be sure and have concrete evidence that those children are being abused and then remove them. And that's the thing that people have also asked me as well, is like, how come they're not removing and rescuing the children that are being abused? Like, why are they using so many resources and funding to take my children that are not being abused? And what about the children that are actually being abused? Why aren't they being rescued and saved?
Yeah, it is inverted. They leave the children that should be removed, and then you see all these articles where, I mean, I think there was another documentary on one case. It was Gabriel Hernandez, I think it was, on Netflix, and there were 4 social workers in that home, and they did not remove him, and then he ended up dead, and he was being abused the whole time, and the school kept reporting it, kept reporting. And those social workers were even brought to trial, and then they were let go, but there's no accountability. So the children that should be taken, they're not, because there are children that are being abused and they need to be rescued, but they're not rescuing them. It's it's just an insane system that's all backwards.
Yeah, the system definitely needs to be fixed. It is broken for sure.
Or
Yeah,
perfect.
I'm glad you guys brought up that point. I've mentioned this several times, but I think it's important to note. If you're going through this, you still have to have a way to make a living. You still have your bills coming in. The bills don't stop. And then if you're a parent, I mean, put yourself in somebody else's shoes and imagine going through this. You have the ordeal of them ripping your family from you, and then you still have to go to work, or you still have to try to live a normal life. There's no such thing as normal at that point.
Well, in our
It's
case
it's
too, my children's father lost his job. He had a top secret government and military
right.
security clearance, and with the charges, that were placed on him, they're serious, and he lost his job. So families, they're losing their jobs, their homes, their children. It's complete mass destruction of people's lives. And it's a very unfair system, because where's all the help and the advocacy for the children and the families? Like, my children had a guardian ad litem, but he only saw my kids once in a whole year, and he didn't fight for them. And it's heartbreaking. There's CASA. Thankfully, we had a great CASA caseworker. He said he went into the CPS office and looked at both of my son's files, and it took him a few hours, but he said, I found zero evidence of any child abuse. I'm going to ask the judge if we can dismiss your case. And thankfully, after a year, of going through the family court system and going to court several times. The case was dismissed. But that's the thing is these families, not only do you have your children taken, you could lose your job, your house, everything, and then you have to go to court and fight through family court and criminal court and hire your own attorneys. It's some parents are committing suicide because the pain of losing their children is so deep and so heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's also designed to bankrupt you. Literally to bankrupt you. I mean, if you do
Yeah.
have possessions, if you do have some means to pay lawyers, it's just going to keep adding up. The toll just keeps going higher and higher. And
And this
before
is
you know it, you're remortgaging your house or selling it, selling your cars, selling whatever you have just to get to the next day.
And this is 80 to hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not a million. I know a mother that spent $1 million to fight for her daughter and she still lost her. And it's kind of hard to believe. It's like, how can it cost that much? Attorneys are awesome, but they cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. And then you lose your home and your job and everything. It puts you, in so much debt. And I know families that are still paying, like 10 years later, they're still paying for all the debt of all the attorney fees that they've accumulated as well. It's just, we just hope and pray that there can be change someday, because without this awareness and without your show and people speaking the truth, how do people know this problem even exists? So I thank you guys so much for your time and for the awareness. It's so important.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
saying
It's
that.
our pleasure. Um, I want to, I'm going to go on the record and say not all lawyers are awesome.
Yeah. Some
I
of
just
them really suck, actually.
some of them are really evil. We know a
Yeah,
bunch of them.
We
Yeah.
learned that as well. Like the first two attorneys, they weren't really fighting for us, and then it's a learning experience, though. We had to look on Avo and find someone that's a 10 and great reviews. It's a learning experience. Like there's good and bad in everything. So thankfully, we're able to find an awesome attorney. Like the criminal defense attorney did an amazing job. He used to be a prosecutor, and he said, "I know for a fact you are innocent." And he actually took the time to look through all of the medical records. These are hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of medical records. And then he hired a medical expert to correctly diagnose my son. And that's the thing too, is all the families, like our family, so many families are saying, we never thought this ever would have happened to us until it did. And this could easily happen to doctors, people in the military and the government, nurses, teachers, firefighters. It's happening to everyone. And it doesn't matter which race you are, how much money you have, it can easily happen to anyone at any time. And when you go through this situation, you don't know what to do. I had no idea what to do. I didn't even know what a medical expert was until the criminal defense attorney said, "Hey, I'm going to hire a medical expert and have your son correctly diagnosed." If I would have known that, I wouldn't have taken him to all these other doctors to try to get a correct diagnosis myself. I didn't know that a medical expert actually existed, or what they can do to help you in this situation.
Here's where that 3-letter word why comes in handy. Here's my question. Why didn't the original pediatrician say, you know what? I think we should call in a medical expert and see if I'm right on this diagnosis? How come that wasn't done? I mean,
I don't know.
that seems logical, doesn't it?
Well, the hospital in Texas, the Children's Hospital, they said that they have a care team. And Sylvia, what does CARE stand for? It's like child abuse. They're supposed to be specialists. Like they talk about there's this team of doctors that are supposed to, find child abuse. And that's the
It's
problem is, what's that?
no, I'm with the hospital, I'm not sure. I think that would probably be more because I don't have a lot of cases from the children's hospital.
Okay. Yeah, there's this care team and at this children's hospital specifically, and they have several doctors that are, supposed to be specialists and try to find abuse. But that's the thing though too, is like if they have all these specialists, then why are they getting it wrong so often?
Wait, Lorina, you said they're trained to find abuse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
right
they
there.
say find if the child is abused or not, but yeah. And that's the thing though too, is I've also heard of the saying like, oh, if you give a child a hammer and nails, they're gonna think, they're gonna hit all the nails, and these doctors are assuming everything is abuse when it isn't. So it's just very concerning.
Yeah. Especially when your when your child does have a medical condition, because like you said, he wasn't getting the help that he needed during this whole time. And, like that's life threatening too. Like they're literally putting kids' lives in jeopardy in order to um, get like go after abuse instead of like trying to figure out what's going on with the child.
Yes, exactly. My son had to have 2 neurological surgeries by the time he was only about 5.5 months old. And if you can imagine your child is sick and you're trying to take them to the doctors and they're having surgery, and then you have CPS there interrogating you about abuse when you know your son has never been abused. It's like it's so crazy and so stressful to see your child suffering because of a medical condition and they're not telling you what it is. It's just heartbreaking. And then they told me to go back to the hospital and they wanted to give him an x-ray, but the x-ray wasn't to check on him, it was to make sure they didn't find abuse when there was never abuse in any way. So it's so hard for him to have to go through that surgery and then have to take him to the hospital again because they're like, oh, we need to check and make sure he wasn't abused. And it's so frustrating, for these families. Our children are having medical conditions, and they moved my sons 3 times within the foster care system. He missed a scheduled MRI with his neurologist and the pediatric neurosurgeon because they kept moving him around the foster care system.
That's trauma right there. Like they're supposed to have a stable environment. They don't even have a stable environment. That's the other thing that I keep saying. And I don't know if y'all ever went and stayed with a stranger, but yeah, KK, tell us what it's like.
Well, I mean, it's scary. I mean, you don't know the type of parent or even the kids that you're going to be around. And oftentimes you don't really have a lot of stuff with you. And, the late night hours, you're just like, am I ever going to go home? Like you're crying, you're sad. I mean, that's just the small, short version, but it's not always fun.
Yeah. I can only imagine what it's like to walk into a stranger's house, and then whenever I would drop the foster kids off, it was always, this is my house and these are my rules. And if you don't abide by my rules, then you're out. And everybody had different rules. I couldn't even keep up with them. So I don't know if that was something that you experienced, KK.
Say that part again.
Whenever I dropped the kids off, the first words were, this is my house, these are my rules. And if you don't abide by these rules, you're out.
I don't remember if my foster mom said that, but at least her actions showed it. She never, I don't remember her actually physically saying it, but her actions showed, like, if you did anything to cause any type of harm or trouble, you're going to be kicked out. And I mean, that's what she did. I got kicked out of my first foster home and then went to a group home. And I mean, I was like 2 hours away. And I don't know, just the experience is always like trauma. You're constantly moving. It's very unstable, it's very unhealthy, and it's really just hard to even make friends because you already know, like, well, what's the point? Like, I'm gonna be moving probably shortly soon. So you don't really have like a normal life. You don't get to experience the normal things that you would like to because you're constantly being moved. You're constantly having to, maybe even get rid of some stuff or, things get lost. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that, KK.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry you
thank
went
you.
through that, KK.
The
No, it's
instability,
okay. It's okay.
the instability in a home can definitely cause a whole bunch of issues. Lots of trauma with that. I mean, a stable home, even if the parents are, not home as often as they should be because they're both working, and the kids are doing the school, and then they're gaming while mom and dad are out working, and they come home, and the kid's 13 or 14 years old. Like, that's still a stable enough environment where the kid can still get the nurturing and love that he deserves and needs, or she needs, to grow up and be a productive adult. But when you're 13 or 14 and you're taken out of that environment because
Yeah.
the state's telling you that your parents are no good, and then they put you in a home with strangers, how is that going to benefit that child? Like, how is that going to help them?
Well,
It
it's not
creates
gonna help.
instability.
It's not gonna help them. And then not only that, sometimes they don't even have to hear it from the case manager, the kid feels it internally already. Like I felt like I was worthless. I felt like, well, what am I even here? Like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, am I even good enough? And so the children are already feeling that deep inside of them already.
And KK,
Wow.
didn't they, and Sylvia, maybe both of you could talk about this. When you were being moved around, shopped around house to house, or group home to group home, basically you're just given a garbage bag with your stuff in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
don't I don't remember if I had a garbage bag, but I do remember I only had a few stuff and I didn't even get to have all my clothes that I used to have. Like I had clothes like random girls' clothes and then I just end up keeping it.
Why was that though? Is it just like they just had to get you out in a big hurry so you didn't have time to get stuff, or
Well, for me, since okay, so before I got in care, I ran away from my adoptive family. And with that, I didn't even have anything with me, like any belongings. So like the day that I got arrested, the cop came and arrested me. I didn't have anything. All I had was the outfit that I had that day. And once I got released, it was the same outfit I had. And I mean, I tried to ask my parents for the rest of my clothes, but I don't know. It's kind of very still touchy subject, but I don't really know the reason why I didn't get to have the rest of my clothes. So I only really had a few things and I had to share my clothes or share with other girls.
Yeah, like
I
with
can
my
I
sorry.
can already hear like people watching saying, "Well, she deserved it. She was running away." But that's the idea. Like the kids are running away because they're trying to find a home. They're trying to find their parents. They're trying to get back to
Safety.
stability. Yeah, safety.
Safety.
Yeah, and that's the
Sorry,
thing
Lorena.
though too, is like even when they took my children, they wouldn't let me give them clothes or, stuffed animals or anything. They just took them and that's it.
Do you
Well,
think that's,
also,
and I want the opinion of all of you on that. So, Lorena, that's such a great point. So you offer here, take their toys, take this, just so they have some kind of semblance of home, right? But
Yeah,
again,
that's what yeah.
that's part of the plan, right? I mean, so that they can create this separation and then get them on the psychotropic drugs, get them in therapy, get them in all these programs, right? I
Mhm.
mean, Sylvia, you've seen that.
Well, I wanted Lorena to finish her thought because she did seem like she had had a thought she wanted to say.
It's okay, no worries. I was just like, I sympathize with KK because I remember asking CPS and the sheriffs, like, for some reason, I was just like, they need their stuff. Can I give them their clothes and their stuffed animals they like? And they're like, no, we need to take them now. And it's like already a horrible traumatic experience. But then when you can't have your own things, like a familiar teddy
Yeah.
bear or anything like that, and they deprive them. I even gave my son, he was 4 at the time. I gave him a picture, like our pictures, like in a photo album, and he said that the foster parent wouldn't let them keep the pictures of us as a family.
Yeah,
no,
that's
oh, sorry.
oh, I was just gonna share an experience that I had during my training. So my RBWO training, and it was at Devereaux. The instructor, he had us, he said, I want you to get up and move chairs. Now we had been there all day and we had our pen, our paper, our purse, our phone. We had everything with us, our drink. He goes, I want you to get up and I want you to move over. And he had us all move over. And he goes, now you're not allowed to take anything with you. Okay, you can't take your pen, you can't take your cup, you can't take anything. Then we get to our new desk and he continues the training. And we're all looking around for our stuff, right? Because I want my drink. I don't have my drink. I want my pen. I don't have my pen. It's somebody else's. He goes, how does that make you feel? And we're like lost. We're all like lost. I want my cup. I want my drink. And he goes, okay, now imagine a child when you remove them from a home and they're not allowed to take anything with them. Now, this was part of our training. So they know. they know what it does to a child because as an adult, it threw me off. And that was part of my training.
So why was that in the training if they're not
So that
adhering
you
to
could
their own?
right, that's what I'm saying. They know it, but they don't adhere to it. They're like, this is what it does to a person, but yet they won't let them take their clothes. They won't let them take anything with them.
I mean, it's basically like they just want to own the kid, like label them like a barcode in a way. Like you're
Well,
mine.
just like Nancy said, merchandise.
Yeah.
And it makes you dependent on them, right?
Yes.
So Sylvia, I know you mentioned in the past that you had saw kids leaving with just basically a couple things in a bag, and then they're taking them to another foster home. I mean, is that the common practice to see
Yeah.
that happen?
No, yeah, that's the common practice. And then then when they get to the new foster home, then they have to buy all new things, new toothbrush, new whatever. But it's just constant.
And also, like your stuff gets lost. Like I know I lost some stuff, even moving from like the foster home to the group home. So even like the stuff that you wanted to keep somehow ends up getting lost, or the child or your the other foster siblings might take it, and not really could do about it.
That's so sad. So Lorena, I'm going to play your Hidden Truth trailer again. We've got some new people watching, so I want them to see that. It's coming this fall.
Thank you.
And then when we come back, we'll elaborate on it. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the documentary.
Thank you.
My name is Lorina. I'm from Poway, California. It's a nice city right near San Diego, California. My dad is one of 11 children, and my mom is one of 8 children. And I have a huge family with lots of aunts, uncles, and cousins. And I grew up with 3 crazy older brothers. There's never a dull moment with growing up with my brothers. There's never any history of drug, alcohol, or abuse in any way.
The Constitution of the United States, ratified on June 21, 1789, is the supreme law of the United States. The first 10 amendments, also known as the Bill of Rights, were written and proposed to the states on September 25, 1789, by the First Congress of the United States, and ratified by the necessary number of states on December 15, 1791. Unlike any document before it, the Bill of Rights laid out the rules, not for the people, but rather what the government can and cannot do. The 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th Amendments are specifically designed to protect the citizens from a dictatorial government. Their purpose is meant to ensure that people are treated fairly if suspected or arrested for crimes. The 4th Amendment specifically protects people from unreasonable searches and seizures without a warrant. On New Year's Eve 2014, Lorina, a young mother living in Austin, Texas, gave birth to her second child, JJ. Not long after his birth, Lorina became concerned about an ongoing medical issue. Concerned, Lorina sought out medical attention for JJ, but little did she know that the Constitution would not apply to her.
Lorena, you here?
Yes.
Along with the kids?
I don't know for sure. So Jennifer, did you talk to DHS from here that came and saw the kids where they were? You didn't come and see them, did you?
You're not gonna have this.
Are you Bridget? Are you Bridget? Mm-hmm. You guys are corrupt from the beginning. You understand that? It's all about the money, right? $6,000 per kid?
Hidden Truth coming this fall. Let's talk a little bit about the documentary, Lorena. I know we're all excited about this. It's good to get your story in its full context. I think it can be very therapeutic to others that are going through it or have gone through it. I know you're really the one gift I've noticed that you have, Lorena, is the healing part of it. Like God has really gifted you with this healing thing that you have. But not many people have that, and you have it. Because and I think it does help because you can empathize with them because you've already been there. So I know the documentary is going to tell your story, but it's also, I believe, going to help people heal on the other side of this. So I know, can you talk about maybe Tom a little bit and what him and his wife are doing with the documentary?
Yes, thank you, Gina. It's definitely going to be an informative documentary and a positive one because it's like it's sharing our story, but then also the awareness puts it shines a light on what we went through and like how can people heal from this type of a situation. And being that I've experienced it myself and I've spoken to so many families, that's one of the things that I wanted to touch base on, and that's what I spoke with the director about is so many families are hurting and the emotional trauma is severe. It's completely, if you could picture, seeing that scene where they're taking my children, CPS and the sheriffs are taking my children, I fell to the ground and I was crying, and it was just is so heartbreaking, and I can't even explain the pain I felt that day. And then to heal from that situation many years later, it's definitely a lifelong process, and you could do everything you possibly can, but you never completely heal. It's just it's a huge trigger for families, I'm sure, that have been through this, but then it's a positive outlook on how can we take this situation, heal from it, and help others. And the awareness is huge because it touches base on so many aspects of this situation. And Sylvia, I'm so thankful she was in it as well because she used to be a caseworker, and it's so important to hear the truth and the side of like a caseworker and what they experience and why these types of things seem to be happening.
Absolutely. Yeah, the story is
And
so important.
thank you. I spoke with the director and his wife, and they're just so moved by all the news stations. Our story went nationwide and even local, and it's just for them, to see a news story that's just a few minutes. It doesn't touch base on the full story of what we went through. Just like this situation right here is 2.5 minutes, but there's so much more that happened to us, and like how did we heal from it, or what type of steps do parents take to try to heal from this? Because that's something that I hear often is so many families are emotionally traumatized, and how do we heal from it? Because honestly, when you go through this situation, you want to just run and hide and try not to think about it or talk about that, like this situation ever happened. Because it's like the worst. It's like the worst situation that's so gut wrenching that you've ever been through, and to have to speak about it is so painful. So I hope that this will give other families the strength and courage to to speak about what they've been through and to try to heal from it.
Lorena, I can relate to this on a very minuscule type thing here because when my second oldest, when he was about 5 years old, he was a runner. That kid would just take off like we were like literally thinking about putting him on a leash. Like it was just crazy. Like he would just end up. We'd go out for dinner and he'd end up with the chefs in the back. Like it was like you just couldn't. It didn't matter how close he was to you. He just would run off. So we were at this outdoor event one time, and I mean, there's like tens of thousands of people, and it's a super hot day. It's like 95 degrees, high humidity, and all of a sudden he's just gone, and we're freaking out. I mean, we are literally losing our minds. We're like, oh my gosh, where is he? Where is he? And we looked for an hour. We had there were a security on the campus we were at. They were all looking for him. They were making announcements. It was absolutely terrifying. And then it's it's this village. I'm not going to name the place, but it's a village, and they have all these older homes there. So it's like museums and things like that. Well, we just kept going in and out of all these little homes that are in this village, and finally we find him. And there's about maybe 50 people inside this one house watching this glass guy make like jars and glasses and vases and things. And he's up there in front just watching the guy make stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's right there. And I grab him, I'm like, what are you doing? And I mean, I'm like bawling. Like it was so scary. Like I can feel the tension right now just talking about it. My wife was just feeling absolutely like lost. And and then you just hold him so tight, and you're so thankful that he's safe, right? But that's nothing compared to what you had to endure and what others have had to endure. I mean, and I try to think about those little events in my own personal life because it gives me some semblance of that feeling that you have as a parent. That's irreplaceable.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Gino. And empathy is huge. That's how we could connect with each other is through empathy. And there's definitely empathy in our documentary and like as you've seen in the trailer. And it's just like I can't even explain the pain of like imagine something because some people don't have children. Like imagine your pet or the thing that you hold closest to your heart being they step in and take it and say you're abusing that, your pet or your niece or your nephew. And that's the thing is people are contacting me and their friends are going through this situation or their family. And it's just so important to raise that awareness. And I hope and pray that our documentary will go worldwide and reach millions of viewers and help add steam and traction to much needed changes worldwide.
Absolutely. If you guys want to watch the trailer, and this will be, well, I should say this. Lorina, is this where your documentary will be released on the channel?
I can't speak about it right now because the director, he said once it's finished, then we'll speak about where it's going to be at. I'm I'm aiming to put it on Prime, Amazon Prime, since a lot of people
Okay.
have that as well. That's should
Okay.
be one of the places where it could be streamed at. And I'm gonna try to look at YouTube as well. I just need to do a little more research.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. So that trailer is in the description box below this video. You guys want to check it out, you can click on that. Also, if you guys are interested, Lorina's an author. She has a book, Miracles of Faith. You can go to, actually, I don't, can you guys see that on the screen? So, where's the best place to get your book?
At westbowpress.com, that's my publishing company. They have you could purchase it either the digital by digital form or like the actual physical book. But it's
Okay.
on westbowpress.com, westbowpress.com. And I thank you all so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And I thank everyone for all their positive words of encouragement and support, especially through this long journey of trying to help other families and children. It's definitely been one heck of a, a ride, but I thank God for the strength and the perseverance to just keep pushing forward to help other children and families. That's our passion, is to help others.
Absolutely. And speaking of others, our good friend Chris Stevens. Speaking of documentaries, we along myself, Insight Media, along with Rescue the Fosters, we made a documentary a while back called The Forgotten Father, A Stolen Life. This is Chris Stevens' story. Uh, another heart-wrenching story. His a little different than yours, Lorena, but nonetheless, they stole his daughter, never gave him custody, even though he passed a DNA test, and he is currently incarcerated for crimes that he never committed. It's a long story. We've had Chris on several times. You can go back and watch those episodes here on the Insight channel. Please watch that documentary. It's very informative. It's 30 minutes, well worth your watch. And if you could share it out, get Chris's story out too, because like I say, he's locked up right now, and they've railroaded him.
They didn't just
So,
railroad him, they went after him.
oh yeah,
They literally, yeah, I mean, like his charges are not child abuse and neglect, and that's the other thing that we need to constantly state. They're not child abuse or neglect charges. The majority of families that come to me. Now, Lorina's story is different, but there's so many different ways they come after these families. It's not even funny. And they have similar situations, but Chris Stevens was he was not a deadbeat father. And if he had been, he would be free right now. But he just wanted to take care of his daughter. And because he didn't agree with adoption, they put harassment stalking on him of the caseworker. And it still blows my mind that he's in prison for that. Our system is completely backwards. It's insane. So yes, please go over and watch that documentary.
yeah, it's horrible. Well, all right. Great show. Lorena, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you as always. Continued success with the documentary. We know it's going to blow up. We're praying that God opens new doors for you and the team and the right eyes fall on that documentary.
Thank you all so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Yes,
All right, we're-
anytime, Lorena.
yeah, we'll let you go, Lorena, and then I'm going to close up with the girls.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gino, since you're closing up with us, will you pull up the website, rescuethefosters.org? I just want
Yep.
parents to see this because there are a lot of parents that don't know what to do when their kid is taken, where to go. And we have created a parent guide to help parents. This is specifically the state of Georgia because we are in Georgia, but what I want people to realize is that you do have to start making those complaints and start filing them as soon as possible because they put dates on them. So if you don't get them filed, if you don't, and there's if you keep scrolling, I think I put the links on where to go and who to file with. Yep, keep going. This just has a lot of information right here. Right here, Gino. Well, there's Candace Bros. You can email her, you can call her, she won't respond. We've called her, we've emailed her, she will not respond. So, but please still call and email her because that is still notification. But each one of these are links. So the main thing is to document your case and do a timeline. And record everything. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. That's their rules, that's their laws, and that's what they go by. So, and parents are really good about doing this. Actually, y'all are the best people to document and record in the state of Georgia. As long as you're part of a conversation, you can record without their permission. So please record everything. Do not trust these people. They will look you in your eye and they will lie. They will twist your words. Do not say too much to these people.
That's a key point, Sylvia. I think you can't overemphasize that enough because they will give you this sense of security, even though they have ulterior motives.
Yes. The inspector general is supposed to be the oversight. Again, the inspector general doesn't do anything, but that's the website you can go on and you can create and do that complaint. You have to file these complaints so that you can file a lawsuit against them. So there's the ombudsman office, the Georgia Child Advocate. They don't do anything either. They literally do nothing.
Okay, Sylvia, sorry to interrupt again. So we're literally reading things to do, but then you're saying, but they'll do nothing. But why is it important that they still go through these steps?
Because when you go to file, when you're done, you can file a lawsuit because they didn't do anything. So we still want to follow those steps so that you can file a lawsuit. Because don't give up. And then it seeks legal advice. Okay, there's really not that many good attorneys in Georgia. There's really not. But you can contact me and I'll see if I can find one for you. And you can contact me through our website on the contact page. And DFAT's oversight, Candace Bros. Again, she does nothing. She does not follow up. She does not respond. She does not investigate. She simply assists the fraud.
Yeah, and it's really sad. We could really use her help if she really wanted to do her job.
Yep.
That's the thing. These people could make a difference in the right direction. They could literally fix the problems. But I mean, I'm not going to accuse anybody. I'm not going to make wild accusations, but you have to ask that question. Why? Why aren't they doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Make any sense?
Well, I think it's the money.
Do you think, or do we know? I think we know.
What were you trying to show, KK?
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Give me 1 second. I have to fix my camera.
We can see you.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, because
well,
you're
I
trying to
think
show
she was
something.
trying to
Gotcha.
show. I think she was trying to
Gotcha.
show some on the phone. It
Keep
might
it right in
not
front of you.
still show. It's still not going to show because you got your background blurred. You have to do none.
Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, there you go.
is this what she looks like?
There we go.
Now, there you go. Yep, that's her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. These people could really do good. So if you happen to come across our video, do the right thing. There's still time. Like, save children, save families in the state of Georgia. Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, I
That's
think that's a
funny.
question Georgians should ask of their representatives. Like, hey, I don't understand this. Why aren't you helping families? I thought that's why you were, well, she wasn't elected, but she was appointed by the governor, of course. Well, your governor,
Governor Kemp.
your governor and our governor, I think they should hang out in
They probably did, Gina. They probably
in a
did. They
place
probably go on vacation together.
in a place with bars in front of them.
They're hanging out at the bar, just not at the right one that we need them at.
And we laugh because we have to. It's just, oh
Literally.
my gosh, it's so frustrating. It's just
Governor Kemp is the one that threw Danielle out when she went to ask for help. So that's the type of person he is. He literally had police officers throw her and her husband out when she asked for help.
I think the deal with Kemp is there's no backbone, or maybe he did have one at one point, but there's definitely pressure on him. I mean, what happened to, I believe it was his daughter's boyfriend, wasn't it?
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was his
So, I
daughter's.
mean, that was kind of strange. So,
It was
I mean, these
during
people,
the election. Yep.
that's right. And this is one thing I think where I do have some empathy for these people when they get in power. There's a lot of shady people that they probably go in with some good intentions. Let's just face it, right? They're, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do change and and then all of a sudden they get in there and they realize there's a lot of people with power and a lot of money
They
that
drink the
are
Kool-Aid.
twisting arms. Well, some of them for sure, but I'm saying there's other people that are just scared. They get in there like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize this puts my whole family at risk. So there's a part of me that has some empathy, but at the end of the day, you're a public servant. Do the right thing. That's it.
Yep.
All right. Well, KK, any last words before we end the show?
No. Thank you everyone for watching, and please share and comment and repost our stuff, our
Yes,
videos.
please.
Yeah, listen to KK or else. She's mean.
Thank you
I'm telling
everyone
you,
for supporting, and thank you for the supporters that do support us.
Yes.
We love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you guys on John's X account. We appreciate you, John. Thank you for streaming again. Love you, bro. Thank you guys for watching over there. If you guys on mine, my insight from tonight was the first time in a long time that I actually streamed there. So all of you over there, if you guys can like on X, that would help tremendously. Please, please like. Even if you didn't like it, that would still be helpful if you could just like it. Also on Rumble, YouTube.
Hit the down button. I think that helps too.
Yeah, anything. I don't know if you hated it, just
say something bad about us.
Anything. I don't care.
I think any comment. We need trolls.
And then also on, of course, the Foxhole. Please go ahead and red pill and share it. That helps us. I mean, we're really just trying to get the word out, and we need you guys to help us. If you think this is important enough, you can help us out by doing that. We're not asking for money. It's real simple. You just click that button. Oh my gosh, you guys! I had a heart attack halfway through the show, so I was trying to find Lorina's documentary on her YouTube channel, and I was under my old account. I didn't realize it on Google. And so I was going to my old YouTube channel, and it kept saying, your channel has been like canceled or whatever. And I'm like, I was freaking out. I'm like, what? Like,
Oh,
what happened now? And so I was like, for like 5 minutes, I'm freaking out. And I realized it was on the wrong, like my old account. So
yeah.
we were live on YouTube tonight. We're still there. Thank you. Thank you, YouTube. We appreciate you
Thank you, YouTube.
guys. Okay. Well, um, anyway, that's it. Thank you again, Lorina. Great job as always. Lorina is awesome. We love Lorina. And go ahead and again, in the description box, we have her trailer, so you can watch the trailer there. If you can just share out her trailer, that would help tremendously. Again, if you want to go and get her book, Miracles of Faith, you can. You guys
I think
can
you were
go.
muted there for a second.
Oh, was I? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, go. I don't. Why is my screen doing this? This is so weird.
I don't know.
There we go. Anyway, Miracles of Faith. This is Lorina's story that she just shared with us again here on our channel tonight. But if you can go buy that, I think it's like $12 or something like that. That would help tremendously. They are trying to finish the documentary, which, like everything else, costs money. So that would really help tremendously. And then, did she say we could? Are we supposed to play her commercial?
What's the commercial?
Her beauty supplies.
So she doesn't have that website running right now. So that's the only thing. But she does have amazing products, natural products. That's what I use is her face wash and lotion, and it's all natural and they're great, but her website is not up and running. So there's not a way for people to order that right now. So that's the only thing.
All right. Well, I'll keep that link out then for now. But okay. Thank you guys so much again. Appreciate you. Have a great night. God bless. We will see you next time on Rescue the Fosters.
Insecure and left alone to defend for ourselves. We are praying to the Lord for when this nightmare is going to end. How many more sleepless nights? How much more pain and tears do we have to endure? When can I see my family or someone who cares for me? Are we not good enough? Or are we just some test rats that have to follow orders? Are we just worth $1? Or are we actually being taken care of? Our hearts are burning in pain, and tears keep falling from our cheeks. Tired of crying and having our emotions in cycles. Our voices are being empowered by the ones who have more authority than us. However, today is the day it ends. No more feeling ashamed and leaving abandoned. We are standing up tall and raising our voices high. We are a child of God, and our work has just begun. God thinks we are worth enough and worth fighting for. God has our back and no need to fear. If God is for us, who can be against us? Romans 8:31. Now one more child is going to be left alone and abandoned. Thank you, Jesus, for all you have done for us, and all glory goes to you. In Jesus' name, amen.